from our studios in Atlanta, this is Car Biz Today. And here now, Jim Fitzpatrick.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us on CBT News. Every dealer knows that a well-functioning CRM reduces the more tedious aspects of car selling. It creates better leads, records customer service issues, and even assists with marketing campaigns. However, a lot of dealers are not using their CRM to the fullest capability. So today we're joined by Greg Uland, who's the marketing director for Reynolds and Reynolds. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me down.
Yeah, so headed into the NADA show that's coming up, talk to me about what you see as the biggest challenges that dealers face today with regard to their CRM.
Sure. Well, it definitely depends on the dealer,
Yeah.
right, and what their focus is.
Sure.
We've seen a lot of changes and some mounting challenges in used cars, and we've seen some things in fixed ops that are adding to struggles in the business. But from a new car perspective, the big thing is really just starting to feel harder and harder to sell cars.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, business is good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Last year we sold about 17 million cars.
Sure.
2018, 17 million cars.
Sure.
17 million cars.
It's getting boring now, right?
Yeah, 16 and 15. So
Sure.
we really haven't seen a 5-year stretch quite this good.
Right.
We're pretty much in the glory days when it comes to selling cars.
Yeah, for sure.
But it just feels hard.
Sure. And certainly with the margin compression, that doesn't help matters either. You know, you're selling the same amount of cars as you did years ago, but you're making a whole lot less money, right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, margins are tiny compared to what they were just
That's
a few
right.
short years ago.
That's right.
And then you have more educated consumers, and you have really expensive cars today compared to what they used to be. And the dealership business is more complex than it's ever been.
That's right.
Think about all the jobs that exist in dealerships today that weren't there 15 or even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an internet department.
That's right.
Everybody has a BDC.
That's right.
You have a social media marketing manager.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back in time and you look at the last time business was similar to what it is today, you go back to 2007.
Yeah.
Selling 16 million cars, and
Right.
the average dealership had about 53 employees.
Right.
Fast forward to today, selling 17 million cars,
Right.
and the average dealership has 68 employees.
Wow, that's
It's
incredible.
almost a 30%
headcount.
increase.
Yeah, it's huge.
Right? So our business just keeps getting more and more complicated, and it feels harder to sell cars.
Yeah, yeah. And why is that? I mean, what do you point to as a reason for something like that?
Well, everybody needs to look at really what they can control, right?
Sure.
And that's the interaction with the customer. And when you start to look at those interactions, you really start to see a bunch of different individual pieces of software and tools that all require manual processes to make them really work well,
Right.
really hum.
Right.
And right in the middle of it, when it comes to selling cars at least, is the CRM. And the CRMs have come a long way in the 40 years that they've been around.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. But they've gotten to the point where they're so cumbersome that we really have to incentivize salespeople to use them to make them work well.
Yeah.
And really what ends up happening, rather than incentivizing them, we end up punishing them for not using them, right?
Yeah,
The
that's right.
phrase,
That's right.
if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen, pretty much rules every sales department.
That's right. Yeah. Why is it you think that salespeople don't use the CRM more?
Well, it doesn't add value for them.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't make their job easier. I mean, the CRM as we know it, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not making their job easier, and for that matter, it's not making the sales manager's job easier either.
Right.
It's actually doing really the opposite. It's adding a bunch of inefficiencies that result in really an unproductive sales force.
Yeah.
Think about, a salesperson gets a phone call,
Right.
And they have no idea who's on the other end of the line.
That's right.
Or what they're calling about. So they spend some time figuring that out, and then as they're talking through, they're going to take notes on their pad of paper on their desk,
Right.
right? And then when the call's over, if they think it's important enough to log it in the CRM,
Sure.
then they're going to go over to the CRM and type everything in there.
That's right.
Well, and let's take a step back. They're not going to type everything in.
That's right.
They'll type in enough.
You know the sales department, that's for sure.
Right, so they'll type in enough where they get credit for the interaction,
Sure.
but not so much that somebody can cherry pick their customer when they're off next Saturday.
That's right. That's right.
So they get that in there, and then they're going to create their follow-up event, and then they're probably going to add it to their hot sheet, maybe in a spreadsheet or something like that.
Sure.
Realistically, they're probably going to give themselves a little sticky note and put it on the monitor or on the desk too.
Yep.
It's crazy, how hard it is to use a CRM.
Yeah.
And then you flip over to the follow-up, right, and making sure customers get followed up with, and that adds even more manual work. So I think back to when I was selling, and every night before I was done for the day, I'd line up my next day.
Right.
And what I had to do, I'd pull everything down, either print it out or write it down out of the CRM, out of my Outlook calendar, out of my hot sheet. I'd manually prioritize everything.
Right.
Then I'd go back into the CRM and I'd reorganize my day so that I knew what I was doing when I came in the morning. So today, you walk around, when I walk around a sales department today, I see the same thing happen.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
and it might be in the morning instead of at night,
Yeah.
but it's the same process.
Yeah.
Why in the world are salespeople telling the CRM what to do?
Yeah.
Right? It should be the other way around.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, you had mentioned salespeople and managers earlier. Do you think CRMs make his or her job as a sales manager easier?
No.
No.
No. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I've seen some dealer groups, especially larger ones,
Yeah.
that do a good job of enforcing manual processes.
Sure.
So that they get valuable reporting and measurement tools out of the CRM.
Right.
But that's the exception.
Yeah.
And again, it's only by forcing manual work on your salespeople that you really get anything of value out of that CRM.
Yeah.
I mean, as a sales manager, your training interactions, the time that you have with your salespeople, usually ends up being focused more on how you want them to use the CRM
Right.
than on sales skills and going and finding more deals to work.
That's right.
Your interactions with your salespeople are usually your salespeople telling you what they think you want to hear,
Yeah.
and what's going to get them out of that uncomfortable conversation the quickest.
That's right.
Right. So you're
right.
really only adding value to the dealership when either a customer's walking out the door without a car,
Yeah.
right, or you're negotiating.
Yeah.
And negotiating's important and it's fun, but it doesn't really help improve your sales team long term.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So the CRM, as we know it, has some major issues. Talk to us about that.
Let me tell you a story about the last time I bought a car.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to start at the point where I submitted a lead on the dealership's website.
Okay.
A ton of stuff happens before that, as we all know.
Yeah.
But that point is really when my personal interaction with the dealership started. So I submit the lead online, and the salesperson texts me.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks so much for your interest.
Yeah.
Let me know if you have any questions. Well, I needed to know which wheels were on the car. I couldn't
Okay.
tell on the website.
Sure.
So he went out. He took pictures for me. He texted them to me. Over the next couple of days, we kind of went back and forth on some features and some options. Then we actually started negotiating via text.
Okay.
And once we agreed on a price, we set a time for me to come in and take delivery of the car. So at what point do you think that salesperson entered all those interactions into the CRM, and at what level of detail?
Yeah, right.
Right, it was probably
Exactly.
when we set the appointment.
Yeah.
And where was all my contact information stored?
Right. In his phone.
Personal cell phone. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
What's turnover for salespeople right now? 70%.
Oh my God. Yeah. Exactly.
So my point is,
Wow.
Not
you
only
think about all that data walking around.
right, and
That's nuts.
and not only is that CRM as we know it kind of broken,
Yeah.
it's actively avoided. Right,
Yeah,
the salesperson just uses his phone because it's easier.
That's right.
So he's actively avoiding
That's
using
right.
the CRM, and then the dealership's customer information
Yeah.
walks out the door every time a salesperson quits.
Yeah, for sure. And the turnover continues to be high in the auto industry. So you've got all of these salespeople walking around, obviously, with dealers' data in their back pocket. And sometimes they'll go to another dealership to work, and what happens, they take their phone out and go, oh, here's Greg that needed a car from me over at ABC Chevy, and now I'm over at XYZ Chevy. I think I'll give him a call because I have all of his information right
Happens
here.
all the time.
And ABC Chevy doesn't have the information, right?
That's right.
So what's the solution to something like that?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Because it's something that I don't think there's a single fix to.
Right,
Right.
right.
But a lot of when you look at fixing something, if you go back to the cause, right? So what's really driving it? Again, a lot of things, but one of them is certainly what we're talking about today.
Right.
Right. When it feels hard to sell cars,
Yeah.
When tools are
Yeah.
complicated to use.
That's right.
And when salespeople don't feel like they're getting the training or the coaching that they want or they think they need,
That's right.
they're going to start to look for something else.
Yeah.
I mean, this is retail. It's hard,
Sure, sure.
right? And until we fix some of these root issues in CRMs,
Right.
We're going to keep seeing this vicious cycle of hire, train,
Yep.
quote unquote coach, which
That's
is really us telling them how we want them to use the CRM.
That's right.
Then they quit.
Reynolds is on the forefront of all of this, and they come to you for the solutions. So what kind of solutions can you provide them?
Yeah. So when we talk to dealers about this, we really kind of talk to them about looking at two things. The first one is we need to stop forcing salespeople to use tools that slow them down and give them things that make their job easier.
Right. Absolutely.
Salespeople come in the morning and they have 68 incomplete tasks that they have to go figure out what to do with.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it ranges from happy birthday reminders
Right.
to I don't know, vehicle purchase anniversaries to follow-ups that probably don't even need to be done anymore.
Right.
And you look at a lot of these time-based activities that get created.
Right.
Half of them don't end up getting done anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you need to take the work and frankly the judgment off the salesperson to go and prioritize their day and start telling them exactly who to call based off of who's most likely to buy right now.
Sure.
You hear terms like predictive analytics and artificial intelligence thrown around a lot, and they're kind of buzzwords.
We talk about it all the time here at CBT.
But this stuff is completely doable and manageable today.
Yeah.
You just need the right technology, and it's actually pretty easy to cut through all that clutter.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you really need to redefine what a CRM is and what a CRM does. So stop looking at what's already happened and start looking at what's happening right now and what's going to happen next.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The second big thing is we really need to stop looking at CRMs in isolation, right? We've talked today about the new vehicle sales department for the most part, but we all know customer relationship management, it's dealership-wide, and it's ongoing.
Yeah.
So we need to tie, it's really only when you can tie all your silos together and you get out of this world, you stop having all these different tools and pieces of software that are each managing a part of your business.
That's right.
You tie it all together, that's when you can get the most out of what's possible through technology.
Sure.
So once you do those two things and you kind of refocus on what you're trying to accomplish, taking advantage of this high demand for vehicles that we have today, it gets a lot easier.
And there's so many, there's dealers out there that are listening right now that say, well, I've got a CRM company that talks to my DMS system out there. And I know you guys are, you've got your hands all over that. So in a perfect world, isn't it way better to have a program that is built and managed by your DMS provider? Well, and with regard to the CRM?
Sure, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, obviously. But yeah, I mean, perfect world when you have a single data source and you have a single unique identifier for every customer, regardless of whether they've done business with you or not. But you can start to tie all these pieces of information together, and you can really start to get a holistic picture of each individual. And then it gets really cool when you can start to take all that data and pull it together and figure out what they're going to do next.
We were talking to one dealer. The guy's got 18 stores in the Northeast, and he said, I wish I could get my sales department and my managers to use our CRM to the extent of 45 or 50%. If they'd even use it to that level, he said, I'd probably double my business. Do you find that to be the case with dealers around the country, that they complain that their CRMs are just not being utilized the way that they should be, or were designed to do, or
Yeah, I mean that's a core problem is utilization, absolutely, and that's where shifting the focus from forcing people to use it to having a tool that actually enables their workflows.
Right.
When you shift that lens that you're looking at it through, you get a lot more out of it. When you don't have to force people to use something and they want to use it, or they don't even have to do a lot of manual entry to use it.
Right. That is the key, because I think for salespeople, and I spent a few years on the showroom floor myself, you're always going to take the path of least resistance, right? And to your point, when you said, the individual jotting down, notes or putting them on their cell phones or what have you before it even goes into the CRM, that's happening as we speak around the country a million times, right? Yeah, and the consumer wants that seamless transaction, that seamless sales process, and to have that information in a CRM done properly really speaks to that, right, at a dealership, rather than somebody walking in and saying, I'm Mr. Johnson, and the process starts all over again, right? Because somebody didn't utilize the CRM the way they were supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's got to be a single system to flow all the way through the transaction.
That's right. Many dealers will tell you that I buy programs and then I'm not supported by the company in the way of training and what have you. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of that. Obviously, Reynolds has been known over the years for a company that supports what they sell with dealers. Talk to us about the importance of that.
Sure. I mean, we take a tremendous amount of pride in our support organization.
Yeah.
We have all of our support done in the U.S. and Canada. We do that on purpose, right? It's a conscious decision. It costs us probably a little bit more.
Sure.
But we think it's important. It's important for a lot of reasons. It's important for the communities that we're a part of.
Right.
It's important for us as a company, and not least of all those things, it's important for our dealers, right?
Sure.
We feel that they deserve to be helped and helped very quickly when they need it. So we do take a tremendous amount of pride in our support.
Yeah.
We also do a lot of work to make sure that support is almost never when things are broken, right? Nothing's ever broken that we build. Support is,
that's a good point.
Hey, how do I pull this report? Right? It's those simple things. And then we work through utilization specialists, both remotely and through field visits with dealerships to make sure that our customers are always up to speed on what's possible and how to use the tools to the best of their ability.
Yeah. And with the data that you guys have from dealers all over the country, you know, you're knowing at any given time what the consumers are looking for, what the dealerships are looking for, and then building and engineering to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we, you know, we really do talk to our customers a lot. You know, I don't know if a lot of companies do this, but we have a customer advisory board that we bounce a lot of ideas off of. And we're always
made up of dealers.
Absolutely, yeah. So all of our dealers have all different sizes and you know, good users and some that maybe aren't so good users, just so that we can get different feedback from different perspectives. But it's very important to us to understand, you know, because you can develop anything you want. You talk to a lot of people, right? And you can come up with the best idea, but if that's not how it's used, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
So we are always making sure to stay in communication with our dealers to understand how things are being used, not necessarily how we design them, but how they're being used, because we need to make sure that we're able to adjust to that.
Yeah, for sure. The designer, if the designer hasn't spent time on the showroom floor, either as a manager or as a salesperson, they could be in trouble if they're not listening to that advisory board, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So talk to us a little bit about NADA that's coming up. What can dealers expect when they stop by your booth?
Well, I mean, as every year we'll be busy, right? And everybody will be chasing everybody around.
Absolutely.
But we actually have some really fun, cool stuff this year. That stop by and see it. It'll be well worth your time.
Okay. Cool.
There's 3 or 4 big things that we're very excited to kind of show off with the world.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, you guys always come with your A game to NAD every year. That's phenomenal. Well, Greg Uland, Marketing Director for Reynolds & Reynolds, I want to thank you so much for joining us on CBT News. It's been very enlightening, and I'm coming by the booth to check it out.
Please do.
Yeah, great, thanks.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
CBT Automotive Network, the #1 most watched network in retail automotive. This has been a JBF Business Media production.